to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween. Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric. Tonight, we are reviewing Phoenix Forgotten. It's not the only special thing tonight, because tonight's episode of Bloody Good Horror is being brought to you by the Holy Triumvirate. That's right. Eric, Schnars, and Joe.
I wish I could remember what the last time we did this was, but I remember...
It was, well, it's funny you ask that, Joe, because many have said that the last time that we did a show together was the greatest show in Bloody Good Horror history.
Yeah,
it was.
Not
Bye
just
Bye
us
Man.
three.
That's
right,
man, guys.
Many people besides from just us have also said that. I don't have their names in front of me right now, but I assure you the accuracy of my comment. So
I like to think of it as the all-star team, guys. We made it.
No argument here.
John.
Yeah, Eric.
We took last week off, so welcome back, first of all.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you feel the seismic shift in reality about a week ago?
Do you mean when all of my dreams came true and the Eric show became a thing?
Were you sitting at home and just thought like, ooh, I just felt like a little tingle in my grundle area. I wonder what that was. It turns out that was Eric, who is me, recording the first ever episode of The Eric Show, which is now officially has its own shorthand, John. TES. It's The Eric
TES?
Show. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll work with that for now. We can figure something out.
Yeah, or just E. Just E.
For me, it was a little more like I got like slight indigestion and then had to sit on the toilet for a little while.
I feel like I gotta poop and my balls hurt.
For some reason, I had morning sickness all day. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so this was something we've been joking about for a while on the show, and I just decided I kind of wanted to make a real thing. So the first episode, I mean, if you're listening to this, you can see it because it's right in your feed there. Episode number 1, titled "Make Your Own Damn Podcast." So
it slotted in nicely because we missed the show.
Yeah, it was
so
perfect.
It was good. We had filler.
I spent about a half an hour just kind of distilling down 10 years worth of podcasting advice. It's funny because like the number one thing I came away from just myself doing this was that like how old we are like as a podcast, because I started thinking about and talking about the like where technology was when we started doing the show, and I was like, holy shit, none of how we originally started recording is it all relevant to anyone who would be recording today. No. Which is actually kind of funny.
Do you want notes now live here on the air?
That's what I disagreed with.
I mean, I don't really care unless it's positive, but you can feel free.
No, I actually really did like the show. We just, so everyone out there listening knows, we sent Eric like a nice, email when it came out because it is, it's pretty funny, pretty interesting.
Because the 47 tweets jerking him off weren't enough.
God, see, I get off Twitter. I don't know when people are.
Yeah, people are into it.
No?
People were pretty excited. I got to be honest. I'm just mostly shocked anyone else from the show actually listened to it. So thanks, guys. I'm not as shocked that Joey. Do you listen to it, right, Joe? Like some of it?
I listened to the first one. I have not listened to the second one.
That blows me away more than anything. Like, do you listen to the show every week?
No, do we actually put this stuff out? I thought this was just us talking.
Do you listen when you're not on it?
Sometimes to like the beginning to see if you guys talked about me, and then once you get into the movie, I stop.
Well, I'm very flattered then, Joe, that you took time out of your busy life for the Eric show. So I also, in the meantime, have released episode 2. So moving forward, I think we're just gonna give all the episodes just to patrons, unlike the other spin-off shows. I wanted to make that first one available just to kind of let people know what it was all about, but also because people ask me all the time about like advice to start a podcast, so I want to just kind of be able to point to that and be like, hey, go listen to this. I don't have time to type this out for the 50th time. But I got some good feedback. Seems like the advice was helping people. And episode 2 is in your Patreon feed, which, John, I believe you can like go get. You can use that in like a podcatcher type situation.
Yeah, they've actually made it pretty straightforward. So there's like 2 easy ways. You can either download the Patreon app and just log in there, and you'll get all the audio. Once you are logged in and you're supporting, you'll see an extra box that pops up that says private RSS, and it's basically an RSS feed that is that has some like light security around it, so that you, the patron, are getting a personalized RSS feed that you can drop into any podcatcher and it'll play.
It's private.
Yeah, well, and the nice thing is, like, so I use that, I subscribed, and I just put it in my podcatcher, and it just, like, the episode's just down. I mean, I set things to auto-download, so.
Is that like a dream catcher?
It's, no, I hang it on the wall.
It's similar. I gotta say that the Patreon tech, pretty impressive.
I mean, they are well-funded, and I think doing pretty well at this point. They've got some.
Well, there's a lot of high-profile people, and it's pretty cool. Anyway. Episode 1 and 2 of the Eric Show. So I've been recording my car because that seemed like the only time in my life that I would actually have time to just talk about stuff. So like on the way to work, I got a mic and I'm just hooking it up. It's a lot of fun. It's got a very Dogme 95 kind of feel to it, John. Like a
yeah,
that's what that means.
I was going to compare it to that. What topics do you have teed up?
Yeah, I was kind of curious. Is this going to stick with?
So I am playing around with lots of different things. I have some like long running. I actually have a notebook over here, John, with a bunch of ideas. I have some long running series ideas. One of them was kind of the oral history of Bloody Good Horror, like tracing back from literally like my first memory of horror as a child through to 2017. So there's a lot in between there, including like
15-part series.
Well, including the previous life of Bloody Good Horror, like before any of you guys were like around, when it was just Mark and I, like in high school and college, messing around with like hand-coded HTML pages. So like before that stuff is lost to my Alzheimer's addled memory, I thought it might be fun to kind of get that all out and something fans might be interested in. And then I think like I actually have some ideas. I kind of want to do some interviews with people, just messing around with people that might have some interesting stuff to say. I kind of want to keep that a little close to the vest for now, Schnars. So the other option is like
you do you, Eric. This is the Eric Show.
I have dreams of releasing episodes that are much more much less focused. So like when I got out of Phoenix Forgotten, I sat in my car for like 10-15 minutes and just kind of rapped about my immediate feelings coming out, and also like trailers that I saw. And so I have ideas of combining stuff like that with just random talking about like, oh, I'm playing this game right now and I'd really love to talk to somebody about it, but everybody thinks I'm a giant fucking nerd and nobody cares. So I'm just gonna like talk.
They know. Yeah. It's not just a thing.
So I'm just gonna talk to myself about it, and then like
nobody's on the fence about
my idea is when I have these little topics, I'm gonna smash them all together in one longer show and then include show notes. So if you don't care about any particular topic, you can just jump to what you may want to hear about.
We're going to create an entirely separate Patreon. It's going to be the Eric Show Patreon.
My hope is that you don't lose interest in this before you get to the like what you hate about teenagers episodes and things like that. Like,
well, actually, I'm trying to keep it mostly positive because like ranting's not good for anybody, you know. So.
Oh no, that's good audio, dude.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
I want you to get real worked up in the car, like someone cut you off and just swearing, just straight swearing. So
anyway, it's fun. Check it out. I really am like looking for, like, if you're the type of person that is a patron that would actually listen to me on a solo show, I want to hear like what you might want me to talk about. So if you have ideas, please send them my way. I'm just telling people that Twitter is the best way. Just Eric BGH on Twitter. Hit me up because I'm literally trying to keep it really loose and throwing everything at the wall and kind of see what sticks. So,
yeah, and quick shout out to BC for hooking you up with some intro
our friend
music.
BC. So he composed the music for an indie game, indie platformer called Halloween Forever. That actually is, if you check it out on Steam, it's got a lot of good reviews. It looks really cool. and he did some chip tunes for that. He's done like GIFs, some very nice GIF work for us in the past. When funny things have happened on the stream. So and
strong GIF.
And he's a like OG like day one Patreon supporter. So he's already given a bunch back to Bloody Good Horror. So anyway, he provides some really cool music that I'm using as just like intro, outro, bumpers and stuff like that. So.
Episode 2, the Eric Show already has music.
Yeah.
Episode 321, Beer Guts. Still musicless.
You know what, Joe? Somebody wrote in and suggested polka for Beer Guts.
Yeah, I saw that. I actually meant to look up for because I was actually we discussed this last time. I was looking up like royalty-free music.
Yeah.
And there was some real garbage that I just did not think would fit.
It's all garbage. Like the other option is like if you find a local or a like a smaller band that's doing something cool, you might be able to email them and say, hey, we'd love to use this on our podcast. Is that cool?
Get some goddamn alt rock up there.
Yeah. Listen, Joe, you find me some music you like.
Alt polka.
You find me some music you like, and we'll do it. With the way we do the show now, it's actually fairly easy once we know what we want to do. So.
I like it. I feel like I would have nothing to complain about if we actually did find something. So.
I got you.
There's not much motivation.
Just hang on to this.
Joe, speaking of seismic shifts in the universe, I hear a rumor that your cold black heart grew 3 sizes this week.
2 weeks ago, but yeah, the family has adopted a dog, and hell is officially frozen over.
Yeah, for like people
I'm shaking my head.
For people who've been listening for a long time, especially since Joe has been around on the show. I mean, you've literally listened to him for years, have like zero empathy towards any animals. In fact, it's usually like outright distaste for like pets.
Yeah.
And it's kind of incredible, to be honest with you. And
yeah.
like it's funny, I mean, normally I feel like the new like thing for our generation is you get a dog in your 20s and then that prepares you for having a kid. In this case, having a kid actually prepared Joe for having a dog.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys watch the show The Goldbergs.
Yes.
Negative.
I occasionally, it's pretty funny.
I'm familiar with what it is, though.
But my wife has equated me to the father on that. And like he got a dog and he's just like screams constantly. But like he got this dog and now it's like the only thing in the world that he loves.
Yeah.
And I don't really care much for animals. I mean, I like zoos and stuff, but the difference between Lemmy, my dog,
they're in cages. You're like, yeah, that's cool.
The difference between Lemmy and all those other animals is that Lemmy is sent from heaven above, and he is a sweet little prince. And
my favorite email of the week was just Joe emailing a picture of the dog taking a shit, staring at him. Which I was like, yep, you have officially become a dog owner. That's how you know.
Well, you know what's weird is like Leslie and I, my wife, were talking about this the other day. Like it does feel like we have like a newborn again because now all we do is talk about like his shitting habits. Like, did he poop? Did he poop this morning? I'm gonna take him out. Maybe did he poop? I hope he poops. Is he gonna poop now? Like he pooped. All right, great.
They look at you too while they're doing it, which is like a whole thing. Like they stare into your soul, and I wish I could tell what they were thinking, but
yeah, it's amazing. Well, they're probably thinking you're gonna clean this up for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't wait till this idiot bends down and picks up.
We have shorthand for it. We just use poop as an adjective. So like instead of coming home and saying, "Hey, did you take Jules out to poop?" I'll just say, "Hey, did you poop Jules?" Like which conjures for me up images of like picking her up like a bagpipe and squeezing her until poop comes out.
I'm pretty sure that's still a verb in the sentence structure that you deployed there. But
yeah, to poop.
If that was possible, it would be a lot easier.
To poop someone. Yeah, it's funny, like because different dogs are different. Like the dogs that like outdoors are the worst because they just want to like prance around and take their time doing it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He's also like he's everything that we said we would not get. Like he's a puppy and like he's not really potty trained, so we're working on that. Like it's everything, but like. We went and saw him. He was at like a foster home, and we went in, and like he like jumped on my wife's lap, and then like started licking my face. I'm like, "You're gonna come home with us right now."
Honestly,
I love you.
My biggest piece of advice that I would give people with like new dogs is like take a week of vacation, because the only way to properly, or like if somebody's home, that's fine.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Leslie's home.
The only way to house train is like you got to get them on a schedule. So like if that means for the first couple days you take them out every friggin' hour, because then when they go outside, you like effusively praise them, and then that's slowly how they figure out like, oh, I'm supposed to be shitting outside.
We've gotten to the point where he's only shit in the house once, and I think we've gotten to the point where he's not going to do that.
And like negative feedback,
it's the peeing he still has like an accident.
Negative feedback like doesn't help. Like the only thing that helps is making them realize that going outside makes you happy, and that's like what clicks in their brain.
Now, everything I've read is like if they piss in the corner and then 5 minutes later you yell at them, like they have no idea why you're yelling.
Yeah,
like,
they just think you're fucking
sense.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it is honestly dog ownership is wonderful. We have 2 now, which is way more of a commitment than I realized before we got a second dog.
Yeah.
But you know, it is.
All right, cool. This has been a great fucking Caesar, meets the new dog owner episode. What was that guy's name? The dog whisperer?
Yeah, Caesar.
It's Caesar Milan Schnars, okay?
Oh, guy's rolling in it.
Is he still around? Like, is that still a thing?
Yeah. He's had to fight off a bunch of lawsuits too over the years.
Yeah, I know he's had some problems.
Yeah,
dog abuse and whatnot.
It hasn't gone great for that guy. I read his book.
Okay. All right. Let's take this to the Eric show. How about that?
Well, let me get in my car. Let me take this into the car.
Anytime Eric gets off topic now, I'm just going to be like, yeah, this sounds like a great Eric show topic.
Well, don't worry about it. This is just eating into time for Phoenix Forgotten because I am not going late tonight. So, Joe, what are we drinking tonight? Just imagine polka music.
Phoenix Forgotten, a sweet little found footage film about some folks out in Arizona who have some close encounters of the third kind, if you will. So I picked a beer from a brewery that I've talked about a few times and I enjoy a great deal, from San Francisco. 21st Amendment Brewing Company is their name. And I picked their Down to Earth IPA.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
It's the session.
It is, yeah. So John is absolutely right. So this is an IPA, but it's not a new style, but it's definitely one you see a lot more breweries putting out. I want to say in the last couple of years, it's a session IPA, they call it. So pretty much what that is these breweries start making beers and it's kind of a backlash to the IPAs that have been so popular, especially like in America, where they're, super hoppy, but also like high in alcohol. So like you have 2 of these and, you're falling asleep at the wheel. So session IPAs
always driving, drinking.
Session IPAs generally are a little less hoppy, but they still have the sort of that IPA punch, but they're a lot lower in alcohol. So this one actually comes in at 4.4% alcohol, which, if I remember right, is like even less than like your typical Budweiser. So the idea being that like if you're out at a bar or at like a party or something, you can have a few of these and still like function. So
I mean, John, how else are you gonna get home?
That's true. God forbid, call an Uber.
Uber like a communist or something?
Not all of us live in the big city with Ubers and stuff, John.
You take your chances.
Actually, all 3 of us live in the big city with the Ubers, but the rest, that's
I don't use them because I have a car.
Yeah. Living it up in the burbs, John.
All right, Joe.
But yeah, so again, like session IPA, the idea is that you can actually drink like a few of these without having to worry about it. Because I think we've all, like, you guys have had IPAs before. Usually have like 1 or 2, and like 1, your mouth is just like completely blown out from all the hops, and 2, like you're already starting to feel pretty buzzed. So, these you can kick back, and this one is actually one of my favorites because it does still have like a really great IPA flavor to it. Like you still definitely get those hops, but it's not like overpowering like a lot of beers are. And 21st Amendment, I've talked about a few times. Like their stuff is just great. Like everything they put out. Eric, I think you've talked about like their fireside chat that they put out. In the winter months, which is a really good beer.
Yeah, you want to put on a good like 20 pounds over the course of a winter.
Yeah,
that's the way to go.
It's literally like, even if you're drinking it, in a mall parking lot, like you feel like you're sitting up next to like a cozy fire.
Why are you drinking in the mall parking lot?
Well, Christmas shopping comes. So yeah, everything they put out, if you can get their stuff in your area, which, they distribute pretty widely, I definitely suggest you pick this up or any of their other beers. 21st-amendment.com is their website. And there you go.
Delightful, Joe. Thank you for that. That is the beer recommendation, something you get every week here in the show. And now let's talk about Phoenix Forgotten.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
John Schnars.
Eric.
Hit me up with one of them fancy words. I'm recharging the Duke joke machine for a little while. I need some new material.
I was just about to say, really disappointed at the lead in there, but here we are. today's word, I'm not probably going to pronounce this correctly, but we'll give it a shot. It's piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity.
Mike Piazzo electricity.
Exactly. So piezoelectricity is the electric polarization in a substance, especially certain crystals, resulting from the application of mechanical stress. So essentially this is, it's when an electric charge accumulates in solid materials. Typically this happens in crystals, some ceramics, and occasionally in biological matter. So this
relevant to this movie that featured Zero Crystal's house.
Joe, you are gonna love how we get there. Don't worry.
Be careful, Joe. Be careful, Joe. This is the second time you questioned Schnorrs this week, and he smacked you down over email the first time. So.
Oh wait, it's a stupid little story now. I refuse.
This comes to us from the Greek. It's from the mid 19th century. Comes from the Greek word that means press or squeeze. That's Paisan or Paisan. I don't know. I don't speak Greek, but yeah, and then obviously electricity, everyone is relatively familiar. So, in preparing to discuss Phoenix Forgotten, I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole as it relates to the Phoenix Lights, and it turns out there's actually, so we'll talk about what the Phoenix Lights were, but there are actually a bunch of other types of Phoenix Lights situations. One of the more famous ones, and I'm going to forget the name, but it took place in Norway. It was something with an H. And it's abbreviated HL. I'll see if I can dig it up. In any event, that instance, this Norwegian one, has been explained, or had potentially been explained by piezoelectricity. So the presence of some like crystalline matter in the air, I guess, was like releasing, light. It was emitting some type of light, and that's some scientist. This was a legitimate scientific paper, apparently, according to Wikipedia.
Did the Illuminati tell you to say that, John?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, here you go. It's the Hessdalen lights. The Hessdalen lights.
Right.
They are unexplained nocturnal lights observed in 7.5-mile long Hessdalen Valley in rural central Norway. So, yeah, so Hessdalen lights, Phoenix lights, people are seeing some shit, and it's confusing. Gets everybody up a little up in arms. Okay?
John, Phoenix is a weird word. Phoenix. I never really thought about it that much until I started. We were doing this movie, and I'm looking at the poster. It's weird. Why don't you tell me about this movie? What is it? What happens?
Yeah, Phoenix Lights, or Phoenix Forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
It is a movie, relatively based around this idea of the Phoenix Lights. So Phoenix Lights were a phenomenon, widely reported. It's been on sort of like UFO explainer type shows, History Channel and the like. So these take place in 1997. And this film essentially opens in present day with the sister of a kid who disappeared right around the same time as the Phoenix Lights. And she's essentially sort of like exploring his disappearance and his life. And it's hard to kind of do that without eventually kind of getting pulled into an exploration of the Phoenix Lights. The whole film, or most of the film, is shown through her perspective. She's a documentary filmmaker. She's his much younger sister. So at the time he disappeared, he was like 16 and she was 6, I believe. So he's in high school. He had basically been using sort of like early video camera, not really early, but the video camera technology that was available in 97 to shoot his own exploration of the Phoenix Lights at the time. And he was doing it with 2 other friends. He disappears. No trace of them is ever found. And so this girl comes back to Phoenix to kind of make this film about her brother's disappearance. The beginning part of the film, there's a lot of interviews of her family, of the other kids' families. And she kind of intercuts that with footage that's from his cameras. Some of it's just like him interviewing people. Eventually we get to him and the friends sort of like venturing out into where they have triangulated the Phoenix Lights, not just to have come from, but to actually be heading, because they do all this research and there's like sort of like 2 dots and then they like draw a line through them and they're like, this is where they're going next. That kind of situation.
I didn't really follow that.
Yeah.
Like, how did they figure that out?
And it's like not even a straight line either. So like it's not like they just extrapolated directly where, I don't know.
Well, they talk to there's like a Native American guy they talk to who lives on like a nearby Indian reservation, and he explains that he had seen them, or like he like, I don't know. Yeah, there's some
I
extrapolation.
think he just worked in the Arboretum, John.
No, he says he lives on this reservation, and I can't remember what it was called, but
Boy.
so yeah, so that's sort of like the entree to the film. The sister, the one making the sort of the rapper film, is named
it's
Sophie.
like it's for a good portion of it. It's set up as a documentary, like a fully edited documentary, albeit a kind of bootleggy one.
I think you can read we can talk about the way this thing's structured, but you can essentially read the entire film as her documentary.
Except there's a I agree, but there's no editing at the end. It's just kind of once you get to the end, they're like, okay, here's the video. Like I understand that it's probably part of the larger thing still.
Well, so what happens is she basically discovers. So they go through all of the tapes that he was making, and eventually she gets to the quote unquote last tape, which has like an evidence sticker on it because it was the one that the police had found in the car. But the tape ends. That tape ends with them like finding this like burned coyote corpse. And so then she kind of gets it in her head like, oh, this couldn't have been the last tape. There must be another tape, but they can't find it. And then eventually that leads to her deciding, oh, well, there must have been another camera, and the last tape is actually still in the camera. And then eventually they find that camera. And then to your point, the last sort of act of the film, the final, let's say 25 minutes, is them just playing that final tape.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
What'd you think?
I mean, I don't think I gave my thoughts over the email, but I read yours, Eric, and I kind of agree with you. I slightly was on board at the very beginning of this movie where they were kind of setting it up as a what's that show with Leonard Nimoy where they just kind of went and like
In Search of.
Yes, exactly. Like they it kind of played like that a little bit. Like I actually thought it was kind of interesting where there's one scene where the sister goes and finds these old crusty, like they weren't like astrologists. Like I don't know what the hell those guys.
No,
are.
they were
were
astronomers.
They were
Were
like
they?
straight up cryptozoologists, like internet crazy people is what they were.
Like that, I was actually kind of on board with. Like I thought maybe they'd recruit those two guys and kind of have wacky hijinks, but there's a lot of leaps of faith here. There's a lot of sort of just, not to like spoil anything, but like when they find the tape at the end that they watch, like it's in this like burnt like camera that has like been through hell, yet somehow the tape is like completely fine. Like there's a lot of that.
You ever try to get a tape out of a VCR, Joe? It's not that easy.
Yeah, well, no,
like tools and stuff.
Well, no, but then they take the tape out and like, why isn't like the tape itself burnt? And like you got like the actual like film in there has got to be like the most sensitive part of this entire thing, and
like
somehow that's perfectly fine.
Traps.
See, Joe, you're bringing logic to this.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff that's just like, well, no, there's no way that would actually happen. And then like it's a lot of shaky cam. Like my wife went and saw this with me, and like we both left feeling like super nauseous at the end.
I have never in my life left a found footage movie feeling nauseous, but I totally did with this one. And
yeah. Like we were both in the car. Like I was legitimately felt sick. Like I had just been on like some shitty amusement park like VR ride.
It is something worth noting that it is shot, like the parts that are super found footagey are actually shot fairly authentically in the way that like a late 90s one would have been shot. Like in the sense that they were going out of their way to make it feel like bootleggy.
Yeah. I would disagree with that a little bit. Only I actually think this was
they were not trying to overstabilize it, is I guess what I'm saying.
No,
but I felt like a lot of the framing decisions, and this is like we're gonna go down a lot of the found footage rabbit holes with this movie because in a lot of ways this movie is like super late cycle found footage, right? Like They have clearly seen every found footage movie, and it really did feel to me like they were trying to calibrate to like hit the right notes and like not overdo it. Like, but it almost felt like, and this is the worst thing you can say about one of these found footage things. Like, it almost feels like too calculated at times. So
I agree. It was very much like there was no part where it was definitely him holding the camera, and they didn't really break that too often. So you at certain points you really forgot that it was found footage.
Well, in the
but so
beginning, it was like
kinda,
not immediately clear because
No.
her cameraman, the one
He's
that's
good.
shooting the like rapper,
He's really
is like
good.
super professional.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like
well, they're shooting a
doing all this, like-
documentary, like
yeah, but even within the context of a documentary, it's like these like really well framed like cinematic type of a lot of like close ups, like things that you wouldn't even shoot as B-roll. It's just very strange.
Well, you know
Well, that's
what, John?
and to
You
kind
ever
of wrap
seen
up my thoughts, like there's a lot of B-roll in this. There's a lot of just like traveling and like
John,
in a van on the
okay.
way out.
One, I agree that it's kind of not necessary, but I'm not sure if you've ever seen a documentary shot by a millennial, John. But like half of it is just pensive, thoughtful shots of the filmmaker because they think that they need to be in their own documentary. So I'm not saying it's a good decision. I'm just saying it's not as inaccurate as you might believe.
Well, my favorite part, and not to sort of like start talking about the movie, but I love when she goes back to their school and then gets frustrated that like the teacher there who hadn't been there when all this happened is, like, doesn't have any clues for her. Like
Not only that,
the fact
but
that they
like,
spent like 3 weeks like trying to hunt these kids down. It's just like, oh, dead end.
but she
I
somehow
got here 2 years ago. Why are you asking
she
me about
somehow
it?
expected that they had kept records of who took out a video camera.
Yeah, and she's
that
like
they-
pissed off at this woman.
They 100% would have just thrown whatever that logbook away at the end of the year
No.
was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this movie's really interesting, and since there's only 3 of us, I'm going to indulge in a bunch of my thoughts on this movie, John.
Oh, hold on. Do I get to go first, or are you gonna go?
Oh, I
first?
thought you went already. God damn it.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
go. I was just.
No,
responding
John
to
just
Joe.
stepped all over my thoughts.
Fine.
Joe, there's only 3 of us. Come on, we can get through this.
Go ahead.
I very, very strongly dislike this film. I was gonna say hated it. I feel like I don't want to come out too hot. I'm gonna wait for Eric to try to say some nice things, and then I'm gonna come out real hard. Yeah, I just thought it was really super boring. Like really, like there is no alien stuff happening in this movie for the first hour, and then when alien stuff does happen, you've sat through 90% of the film.
Yeah,
And we
it-
should say this is only an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that you and I are going to be able to agree on tonight, Schnars, is that this film has like fatal pacing problems.
Oh boy. I mean, here's the thing. It's overly fascinated with the like search for the kids. Like it really becomes like an episode of, I mean, Joe mentioned In Search Of, take any crime procedural, take 48 Hours. Like they talk to all of the police and the police are like telling you how they searched for the kids. It's like, why are you recreating this search so dramatically? I am watching a horror movie about alien abduction,
Yeah.
and you are telling me about how you searched for these kids in the desert for 3 weeks.
Here's my counterpoint to that. I feel like that they were, and I'm not saying that they like were 100% successful in doing this, but I feel like they were kind of trying to do something a little different and maybe add some story and character development to a found footage film, which is typically more of like, you know, as we've described in the past, like, so this movie made me think of Alien Abduction a lot because essentially it's very similar, only it was taken from a totally different tact. Alien Abduction was like you were making an on-rails shooter or something and you were just there. You know what I mean? It's like literal pure event happening roller coaster from one second to the last. But this film is presented much more narratively. So I like actually, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I enjoyed the first hour in a kind of like, it reminded me of the Sci-Fi Channel documentaries that came out of the time around the Blair Witch, or like a much less creepy, like The Last Broadcast, which I'm just gonna have to do for a staff pick eventually, so you guys all have that touchstone since I always bring it up.
Yeah, you do. I've not seen it.
But
so.
it's presented
I've
very
never.
much like this, like a documentary or a program. The thing that The Last Broadcast does, though, is it presents it almost like unsolved mysteries kind of program, so it's really creepy even when nothing's happening and you're just exploring the backstory. Like that movie is so good at that part, and I think that this one drops the ball at that. But what I think it does
Oh.
do is, like, I actually enjoyed the exploration of how they went missing. Like, and it's not the deepest thing in the world, but to me, it's like a kind of interesting look. Like, you know, these parents, their kid disappeared, and we see how it's essentially ruined their lives. Neither of them want to talk about it. You know, the young sister who's now looking for him is sort of forcing the point in bringing him up. Even like you can tell they just never want to talk about it at all. And so I actually really like the like forensic nature of what the sister was doing. She's coming back. She's digging up, you know, the old news reports, and she's digging through his videos. It doesn't move fast enough, and I think there is too much lingering on, like, you know, shots of her contemplating or shots of her doing other things. Like, there's a definite pacing problem. But if
It's-
it paid off properly, like, I would have been into that. Like, I think it ultimately would have been interesting.
Here's the thing. The movie is called Phoenix Forgotten. It is marketed as being a movie about the Phoenix Lights. Like, they could have done a billion other things to, like, because fine, I'll even give you that I thought the sister was, like, relatively engaging. Like, I thought she's, like, a fine actress who, like, kind of pulls off this whole thing.
I liked her search. I just think that the writing, like, if the writing was creepier and better, you could have done this very similarly structure-wise in the beginning, and it could have been a lot more compelling while still trying to do what I think they're trying to do. If that makes sense.
You know who I loved? I love the dad who plays himself when he's in 1997, and then in 2017 he has like grown a beard. That's like the only physical difference.
I don't know. I mean,
Arizona is a very relaxing state.
That's
Joe.
I
true.
actually
you don't
like
age
A lot
like
of
a-
sun though, Joe. I think you think he'd be a
It's
little
true.
weathered.
like I actually thought they did a good job of showing the way it had destroyed the family, because
But,
it was
like,
like
See, I don't even understand like why they got divorced. Like he says at the very end, he's like, well, yeah,
thi-
maybe if he hadn't disappeared, we wouldn't have.
no,
But like
I think it
they didn't
makes,
show like any sort of that tension or like I thought that would have actually been interesting.
Yeah, it's true because it's like it's all happens in the 20
well,
intervening
and
years.
it kind of brings me to my larger point. Like I don't know that I mean I guess I kind of see what you're saying, but I think the bigger issue is that they just, I think they actually had kind of lofty goals with this. I think they were trying to do a found footage film that had a lot more kind of heart and development to it, but I'm not sure that whoever wrote it and or made it has enough talent to pull it off. Like they're actually trying to do something kind of ambitious.
It's the same. So it's a writer director. He's a first timer for all things. He you know I was surprised. So one of the main reasons this has seen the light of day is that it's backed by Ridley Scott. So Scott Free is involved. To me, what I was expecting, and I did a little bit of research for the show. What I was expecting is that like this guy had worked on some Ridley Scott things, and like Scott was like willing to like back him to go out and do something.
Yeah, and honestly,
that is
like I think it hurts the film more than helps it because of the expectations it sets up. Even if you know he didn't make it, like, oh, you put your name on this.
Yeah, but like he had nothing. From what I can tell, he like had very little to do with it, and
Sure.
like.
But it's still some sort of like, I mean, they're using it in the marketing, right? It's some kind of stamp of approval.
Definitely. Well, and it's also, you know, we've got Alien Covenant in like 3 weeks, right? Like, so.
But
I don't know
I
if
guess
they're
my
trying to,
point
like-
is like, so I think a lot about that MTV thing we did that was a piece of garbage, the Gallows or whatever. Like that to me was a
Was that first person?
Yes, I don't even know if you saw it. It was me.
It was just
Sophie.
me. It was me,
Yeah.
you, and Sophie. It was just the three of us.
That to me feels like a much more cynical exercise in exploiting found footage, whereas I feel like even if this doesn't necessarily succeed, I felt like they were trying to do something here, and there were sparks that I could see that worked for me. But the biggest problem, go ahead, and then I want to get to the shift in the third act, because that to me is what murders the whole thing.
Yeah. So, and you kind of mentioned this earlier, like he does, whether you want to call it a good or bad job, he does a good job of being authentic in the mediums, right? So like in the 97 film all looks real. Like it does all the like normal tracking shit, and you have the blue screen that kind of goes like boop, 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 you know, and it like comes on. Like they work in the
and it was shot. It was shot the way that like teenagers with no experience would shoot something.
Yeah, so my argument is like I actually think it was like it felt more like he wanted it to feel like that, but
Well-
some of the shit was like just framed way too well.
Well,
And-
it's at the very end. Like when you get to the obvious alien abduction that's coming, because you're watching this movie, you know that. Like there are moments where they have to force it in order for you to see anything, which maybe wasn't even necessary if you do.
Well,
it
the
right.
one thing that I like that they did is that because they give you the reason why he's still filming at the end. Because like every one of these movies comes down to like, okay, you're now being like chased or harassed by aliens. Like put the fucking camera down and just fucking run. They dropped the flashlight. So they only had one flashlight. So at that point, they're like, fuck it, we got to use the camera's light as the flashlight. Now, maybe you could like stop framing your shots and just fucking run like it's an actual
I
flashlight.
kind of believe that kid, as into this as he was, would have like kept shooting anyway. But
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with that.
So here to me is like, here's what really kills this movie, right? So they are presenting it as a documentary for an hour, and like Schnars wasn't into it, so the movie was already dead for him. But as somebody from
No, I was like not
Well,
completely out.
you're
I
still
was
waiting.
like,
You're
kind of
like,
okay.
yeah, you're waiting. You're like, maybe this thing can pull it through, and finally, and it's something that's actually never really explained. I mean, I guess I understand.
Well, can I tee it up? Do you want
understand-
me to tee up the third act?
Sure.
Oh God.
Okay, so no, well, because it's actually done like somewhat interestingly.
You know, you could just start your own podcast and just talk on
No,
Oh,
here we
the
go.
John
All right,
Show.
there.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So what happens is she finds this last tape. It's all fucking the camera's all burned out, but they managed to extract the tape from it. She watches it, and like we see her watch it, and then instead of like intersplicing the footage, which they've been doing the whole time, she then cuts because like for some reason they're making this movie in fucking real time. So then it cuts to her
Right.
going to interview.
No, before that, there's
an
a scene.
army guy.
Before that, there's a scene where she's just sitting on the curb, like all messed up from watching it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. So they go to interview this army guy and like confront him that they have this footage. And we don't even get to hear it, but we see it being shot through the window again.
first of
because
all-
it's in real time.
Well,
You
here's
have to
why
do
this is
thing.
ridiculous, because they pull up to an army base with a rolling camera and they don't immediately get shot.
Yeah.
So the guy tells her, and she gets back in the car, and she's like, he said to not let the tape get out because it's too dangerous. Or maybe she just
Because the army, who's been trying to cover this up for 20 years, is just going to be like, "Hey,
Hey,
don't
you.
do it."
Also, you know what though? That scene is shot really cool because we're in the car, and they let just like he's trying to listen through the window with the camera rolling, and I actually really like the way they let like just little spurts of words out where you can kind of follow what's going on. I don't
like,
know.
why
That was
not have a
actually-
microphone on her?
No, it was
like
just
you could have
whatever.
done that.
It's silly, but it was kind of neat because you're just imagining what the conversation is.
So now, but this is what.
That's how you play with found footage, though, right? Like you don't give everything to the audience. You know, I don't know.
I think you're giving
Okay.
this movie way too much credit.
I'm with Joe on this.
I hate
So,
you guys.
but she then turns to the camera and or the guy behind the camera says like, "So what are you gonna do?" And she turns to the camera and she goes, "What would Josh do?" That's her brother's name. I don't think we teed that up. What would Josh do?
What would
Yeah,
a 16-year-old do? He'd
So-
probably go home and play with himself in his room.
What
Cut
happened?
to
Yeah.
they
He'd
just
go
start playing-
masturbate feverishly to like some old scrambled spice channel.
Did you wait? Did you mention though, John, where she got this tape from? That it showed up at they found it in an old storage room in the school.
Oh yeah, the teacher who didn't work there when the brother disappeared calls her back like after like 4 weeks. It's like, "Hey, I've been thinking about what you asked me, and it turns out there's this box in a fucking like
She said-
storage
she
closet
said
that's not
she
even
was-
on the same site."
She said she was throwing stuff out.
Yeah,
She really took the sister's snotty attitude to heart and is like, you know what?
You're right,
I'm gonna track
yeah.
this down.
You're right.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
gonna help
being
this
I was
girl.
being useless. Here you go.
yeah. So they find this camera. It's like I said, it's all banged up. They get the tape out, and so when she says, "What would Josh do?" it immediately smash cuts to them releasing the tape. So the implication is
No,
like,
no.
I'm-
It does, but you're extrapolating. It cuts to them releasing the tape. What actually happens is it just cuts to the tape in our
well,
face.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but the implication is that she's defying the army and broadcasting this out to the world.
The timeline is fuzzy.
It's just.
But
you
so-
know,
It could have done with some Rage Against the Machine, maybe like
But
bursting in
Here's
at
the
that point.
problem. Here's the problem though. When this happens, you're
we're
an
gonna
hou-
finally get to the problem.
Yes, you're an hour
Come
in.
with it now.
You're an hour in, and instead of it immediately going to spooky stuff, you start from like the beginning of their journey. So when you do a found footage movie that's not edited, right? A great example, like anything where you're going into the woods, the first like 15 minutes, you basically just have to put up with like inane banter that adds nothing, but it gets you from point A to point B being where the spooky stuff starts happening. You know, it's just like intros. It's like, hey, we're in the woods, we're walking to vacation, whatever. So instead of jumping immediately to scary, it's like the movie resets and you're back in act 1 of a regular found footage movie when you don't give a shit. You have to literally listen to 15 minutes at this point of like just idiot teenagers on these paths, like flirting with each other.
This is what I want from the Eric show.
And Eric, the joke is that they did all of that setup because you get to see the previous tape, and that previous tape ends with the burned up carcass. It starts the next tape with the burned up carcass. To your point, that's when they just start walking, and it's like 20 minutes of them fucking walking.
And I also think, and I think they could have looked to something closer, something like, this is gonna sound weird, but like Cannibal Holocaust, to as a way to not just show all your video. Like that movie goes back and forth between the guy making the documentary and the film that they found, and why not? It seems like such a bizarre decision.
Just stab a few turtles and, add some action to this.
It's such a bizarre decision to me to just go straight found footage when what made this film feel unique for the first hour was this fully edited thing. And I think that they could have used that style to manipulate these happenings better, to make them much more impactful. But instead, you're just sitting there going like, am I seriously just watching 15 odd minutes of these teenagers talking to each other?
It's a movie, so they could have also just written a script that had more interesting shit happening in it.
But here's what it feels like, though. It feels to me like something happened. Like either they ran out of money, they couldn't figure out how to end this thing, or some like dude in a suit came in and was like, no, you're just like put this at the end, we don't give a shit. Because it doesn't even really, like, there's title cards at the end, but you never, the whole movie is ostensibly about the sister's journey to find out what happened to her brother, and she never shows up again.
Dude, that is the number one thing that is so fucking ludicrous. So the way that this movie should have ended, let's all like just get this out on the table now. We don't even need to talk about how it actually ended. She should have gone out into the desert to try to like look for them or like find like some like, and then she gets fucking attacked. Like with better cameras and like better shooting, you could have done something way cooler shit.
There was
instead,
really like
shitty camera version of these three idiots walking around at night. Terrible CG.
Yeah.
Was it?
No, I get that like the end of this is maybe what the filmmaker thought was like a payoff for like all of your waiting, but it was not the payoff that anybody like the 4 people in my theater, counting me and my wife, were looking for in this movie.
I mean, to me though, like it is actually like when they finally get down to it, I enjoyed the visuals. Like there's this really cool moment where I think the kid is the only one left, and he runs into, or is the girl the last one left? I can't remember.
No, it's him. He runs into
like an
trailer.
old beat up trailer, and then this like alien tractor beam thing gets above it, and suddenly like this really great shot where he pans over to the sink and water is pouring out of it and shooting up towards the ceiling. Like that was a really cool visual. But the way
they
it's
use
framed,
that in the trailer,
but the way it's framed, it's not for the build up. It's not enough, and it's also not really the payoff for what they were setting up for an hour. You know what I mean?
No. Like to John's point, that's exactly where they should have cut to the sister like sitting outside, like all messed up, and then from there kind of wrapped everything
her being
up.
Like,
but...
I have to go to the place where they were abducted. Yeah, and like, I don't know.
But instead they just fall short of like giving you a website to go to like wrap up what's going on here.
It just feels like something happened, like some kind of decision was made along the way that was like really, really ill-informed, I feel like, or just it just was not the right way to go with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would have agreed with you and said that there was some kind of like post editing that kind of fucked with this, right? But I actually think
no,
like,
I feel like the problem was in the scripting. But it's like they were writing the script and just went, well, I don't really know how to end this thing. So then he just wrote down, gets abducted by aliens, and that was like the last 30 minutes of the film.
The thing that drives me crazy, and it's funny because like I would probably be also, I might be complaining if they had gone this direction, but like you have a real event here. Like you have this like Phoenix Lights that you at least can like use as like a basis for something. You literally could have set this movie anywhere. Like it just I guess like the setting is in the desert when they're like wandering around. It's like that's Phoenix, but like I don't know. There was just
The biggest thing about it, sorry, I was actually about to interrupt with a total non sequitur.
no. Go ahead, because like I'm just gonna get myself.
I was just gonna
worked
say
up.
all I keep doing is for some reason all I keep doing now is thinking about alien abduction, and like I feel like I remember hating that movie, but it was kind of fun also, like in a dumb way. Doesn't the person with the camera get sucked up into a spaceship at the end of that thing and is running around, and then they get like, and someone's getting like anally probed, and then they get like shot they get shot out like a garbage chute or something back down to Earth.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think I remember not loving that movie or like not, giving it a great review on the podcast, but it was 50 times more exciting than this movie.
Yeah, totally.
I keep remembering different unsolved mysteries, all of which were 15 times scarier than this movie.
Yeah.
Which is a horror movie that was released in theaters, by the way. So
yeah, I think the Ridley Scott thing is a problem. I think if you saw this on Netflix or something, it's like it's just a lot to ask for somebody.
Still wouldn't be good. It would not have been good.
No, but I think your frame of mind going into it can change your perspective on something like that.
I would say I had pretty low expectations, to be fair, but
yeah. I mean, it wasn't getting any buzz. There was literally nobody in my theater. So, although we did find foundfootagecritic.com gave it an 8.5 out of 10, John. So.
Yeah, this is the big win of this podcast episode is discovering found footage.
Eric discovered his new favorite website.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's foundfootagecritic.com, and this guy's like active, so like he's got a review for this and a bunch of other stuff, and he's got a podcast too.
There we go.
Let's go listen. With the way my computer's set up, I could just play this now, and you guys would just hear.
I believe the Eric Show has its first guest.
Found footage audio film reviews. Oh, I'm gonna check this out.
Let's not overly broadcast.
So he's got.
We don't need to check it out real time.
I'm gonna leave that up though.
Quick before we wrap up on this, there was some really awful trailers before this movie.
Oh,
what did you get?
I talked about a bunch of them in the next episode of the Eric Show, Joe.
I'm actually pretty excited. I got the Annabelle 2 extended trailer.
Yeah, I got that.
Oh, I didn't. I just got the same teaser I've been getting where the girls with the doll.
Oh no, the extended.
No, I got like a long one.
It gives you the whole story basically.
And then I got that one about like the little wish box where.
Yes, that is called because no one's in my theater, so I took notes. That is called Wish Upon, and that looks like complete garbage.
There was one other which looked really terrible that I cannot remember.
So this is what I got. I got It Comes at Night, which looks kind of awesome. I wrote down.
I didn't get that, but I'm looking forward to that.
I wrote down Spooky Cabin Fever ? Because I thought it was literally like another Cabin Fever remake until the thing came up. This action movie with Charlize Theron that looks kind of fun called Atomic Blonde, which is basically
it's so good.
It's basically Lady John Wick from what I could tell. And then I got the same Alien Covenant trailer, Annabelle 2 teaser, and Wish Upon, and Friend Request which looks like complete garbage.
Friend Request, that's the other one I got.
That looks so freaking bad. I cannot wait till we have to watch it.
You know what's like now that we've been doing this podcast for a long time, but like I dread trailers. Like I saw that Friend Request one, I'm like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna have to see that.
I have more of a problem just when
like
it bothers me when I've seen the same trailer like a billion times, and I'm like, oh, I know like every beat in this trailer, it sucks. Actually, the Wish Upon thing sent me down this whole like train of thought where I'm like, maybe we could just start, like we've been doing this a while, maybe we could start exercising a little editorial discretion about what we review a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, it's not always a good idea to skip that stuff, but I feel like there are movies that we could look at and be like, maybe we don't have to do this.
Yeah, the only thing it screws up is our worst of end of year list, which we end up, that ends up not being that important. But so it gets interesting, right? So the whole month of June, we have new releases. And then through the beginning of July, it looks like based on how things are currently stacked up, we're going to have to push Wish Upon a couple weeks anyway, because I'm assuming we're going to take Amityville Awakening over Wish Upon. Those are
Do you think Amityville Awakening is really going to come out?
Wish Upon basically looked like the original Ouija if you crossed it with like Hellraiser. If you made Hellraiser like a teeny film, that's what Wish Upon is basically.
It looks really bad, I think.
Crossed with like Wishmaster.
No, so Joe, it looks to me, and I haven't read much about it, but it did look like they purposefully moved Amityville to be a like summer release.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then yeah, I definitely want to see that.
Oh, you know what? Actually, never mind. Wish Pond got bumped anyway. It's not until mid-July now, so we won't have to bump it. We'll just get to see it.
Woo!
All right, guys. Would you recommend this movie, John?
Oh, dear God, no.
Joe?
No, sir.
All right, it's time for fan mail.
Blood-curdling horror gets underway with Crazies, directed by none other than Mr. Horror himself, George A. Romero.
Could it happen?
Get me the president.
More important, could it happen here? Could a whole community be infected by violent madness? Brother against sister, lover against lover, the state against the people. You had better see The Crazies.
Hey, I'm Tommy Ricola, director of Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Wow. We're back. Fan mail. Shout out to my man Cody, who sent 75 emails this week.
Cody!
We are not reading all of them, buddy. Sorry. I did pull 2 of them, actually, that are pretty interesting, so you're welcome. First up, let's see. This is from Brian. Hey, gang. Happy to see that you reviewed Devil's Candy. I was an email a few weeks ago that suggested a viewing. I know I'm not the sole reason, but I have to admit it did make me feel pretty good. Okay, then he goes on with his feelings. I wanted to get to...
And sorry, we are going to review it coming up, so...
He recommends The Void.
Yeah.
Which we are also reviewing coming up.
He says it homages many recently classic films such as Prince of Darkness, The Thing, Reanimator, and From Beyond. He has a different definition of recent than I do. That was like 40 years ago, 30. Anyway, he says keep up the bloody good work. That's from Brian. Yep, Void is on the list. Faux show. Next up, Aaron. I followed Joe's advice again and got another daughter. We're going through one of those she won't sleep nights, and it's my turn to stay up, soothe her, and hate life. Just wanted to say thanks for keeping me company at 4 a.m. I think she settled down now, so I'm going to sneak off to the garage for a quick vape before the screaming resumes. Shout out, Casey.
Oh dear Lord.
Oh, man. Listen, you want to learn about humanity? Have a baby. You want to learn about the deep, dark recesses of your soul? You'll find them at 4 a.m. when you're not sleeping.
Hashtag get a daughter.
It's not all cupcakes and sprinkles out there, that's for sure.
Next up is Evan. He's recommending a movie called The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, she's got them all.
By the way, gifts with a T, not gifts.
No,
Gifts. She's got all the gifts.
I'm also interested in that movie. He says, it blows my mind more people aren't talking about this amazing flick. It brings fresh ideas and originality to the zombie genre in a way I haven't seen since I saw 28 Days Later. It's not the usual low-budget indie fare that we usually see when a movie doesn't get a U.S. release. It's British. It looks amazing and expensive, and it has an impressive scale. It's got some of the most memorable sound design in recent history, and the acting is phenomenal. It's got Glenn Close in it. Eric, I hope you're ready to make room for one more on that top 10 list. Joe, that reminds me.
Oh, yeah.
Before we
let me pull it up.
do Twitter, let's assess here. That's from Evan. Next up, Cody. Okay, so this is him kind of sending in some BGH classic stuff. He says, Eric, I hope The Rock cries himself to sleep at night. I said that during The Wolf Man. I don't remember why The Rock came up.
Why? Why would that be? He's
no,
such a nice
no
guy.
idea. So this is another exchange from the ABCs of Death episode between me and Mark. Mark says, these next two tweets are from Sexy Cody, a.k.a. Cody Codis. Eric, oh, I cannot get behind anyone who has the name Cody. Mark, sorry, Codys of the world. And this is from the Poltergeist remake. Apparently I said, I always try to picture, and this, by the way, what he's about to quote me here saying is like a tried and true rule of mine that I have told many people in my life and I stand by. He says, I always try to picture, if this person's an adult referring to the name Griffin, do I respect them? Mark says, I believe they refer to that as the Cody rule. Eric says, yes, the Cody rule. Mark says, Mr. Cody Griffin, I do not respect you. And then
who knew?
Basically,
who knew
he's
so
just
much Cody lore?
he's chronicling all this stuff. So let's see. From the Chronicle episode, Joe mocks Joe mocks 18 for being a loser, as Schnars critiques the realistic bullying is unrealistic.
Seriously though, that kid did suck.
Here's another quote that I stand by. You know, of all the dumb shit that I say that people quote me on, a lot of the stuff actually makes me feel really good because I'm still behind this. Eric says, our generation needs to prepare ourselves for the inevitable flood of web articles talking about how the Star Wars prequels are far superior films to the originals. Schnars says, stop it, that's not going to happen. That's from the Horns episode, and yes, it 100% is going to happen, John. The clock is literally ticking down right now.
That's not going to happen. No.
Just wait till those kids who were like 6 years old when they came out get computers. It's going to be all over. Though they probably have them now. Innkeeper's episode, Joe says, I don't know, Ty West just sounds Asian to me, and he's not. I don't like that. Eric says, Ty West doesn't sound Asian. Now, if his name was Ty East, ...
Oh my God.
Pretty okay with
that one.
Too.
I'm still on board. That name sounds super Asian.
All right, final email tonight. This is another one from Cody, and I love this because I was just kind of like, it's fascinating to look at our history in this way. He says, I've been listening to Bloody Good Horror, all the year-ender episodes, and was wondering, after 6 years, how would you guys compare the best films of each year? So the list is, you ready, Schnars? Piranha 3D, which I in no way remembered was a _1 movie of the year.
Wait, what?
Attack the Block, Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead, The Babadook, It Follows, and The Witch. It's actually 7. So The Babadook was not actually #1, but he refuses to count Snowpiercer. So all these years later, that pick's still causing controversy. So I don't know. It was really interesting to me to see 2 years in a row. Well, not 2 years in a row. I guess just The Evil Dead. Like, I guess it's interesting that there's a remake on there.
That was a not controversial year, but that was a year where we had I think, if I remember correctly, the most different films get a top pick vote.
These are really solid movies. Like, if you had to pick a favorite of these, what do you think you pick now? I mean, it's tough, like, because literally I haven't seen any of these except the only one of these I've rewatched. I've rewatched It Follows, and I've rewatched Cabin in the Woods a couple times.
Yeah, I've watched Cabin in the Woods. I think I would go with Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, I'd probably go Cabin in the Woods.
Of all those, like, it's definitely the most original.
As far as like how excited I was after seeing that movie, man, the only other one I would put in that list for me is It Follows. My love for that is pretty well documented.
Yeah.
He also wonders like if there's any similarities. I like that none of these are like Wandaverse movies or the ilk. Like, if you think about it, even though we have these movies pulled out of those years, those were all years dominated by that kind of specific supernatural movie.
Well,
I think these are all like pretty different too. Like, there's not a ton of similarities between any of these.
No.
We talked about it when someone wrote in and asked for like other suggestions that were like recent to show their like girlfriend, I think, or something like that. And I said, like, go back and read through those lists. Like, there's really not that many similarities list to list. Like, we tend to the movies that make those lists tend to be pretty eclectic. I mean, certainly I think like The Conjuring 1 was like in our top 10, but it was like number 4 or 5 or 6, something like, like, so there's definitely that kind of stuff in there. But Yeah, those top picks were all really strong. I mean, Snowpiercer won fine, whatever.
I was super surprised by Prana 3D, and I was also surprised by The Evil Dead being a #1. But I don't remember anything. I guess I remember liking the remake, but I don't really.
Yeah, I remember us really liking the remake, and I remember discussing it on the year-end show about how much we really liked it.
Yeah.
I forgot about Prana 3D, to be honest.
Yeah,
but the rest
seems ridiculous.
See that movie.
That movie was a lot of fun.
Oh
though.
yeah,
like
it seems ridiculous that it was #1 though to me.
Yeah,
and it's easy.
That might have been the year before we kind of like I put a little more effort into.
Well, but don't.
I feel like I gotta go back and watch Attack the Block too, because I remember loving that. I just have not watched it in a really long time.
The list itself is a lot more representative now of everything that came out because we have so many writers, so we have a much greater sample to draw numbers from. Whereas there were a lot of years where the list was super skewed by whatever we did on the show, which always presents its own set of limitations because, like, literally, I almost see nothing that we don't do in the show, whereas a lot of the writers who don't have to do a lot of the garbage we do, they will go out and hit. So, like, now it actually balances really well, where, like, a movie like The Green Room last year was #2 movie in our list. I didn't see it until after it went, and, like, we didn't do it in the show. So I think that proves that now the system is kind of working a lot better than it was before.
Yeah,
it's closer. Yeah, Joe, the main guy from Attack the Block is the star of Star Wars Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, John. I didn't know that. I haven't been watching the news for those Star Wars movies since the day it came out.
Did they mention? I don't know. Thanks. Who watches the news?
Yeah, thanks. I guarantee you that nobody on Good Morning America was like, "Oh, check out this star from Attack the Block."
Yeah, they were like, "You should go watch this fucking horror movie from Britain from
with these crazy ass monsters with teeth and shit." All right, so info@bloodygoodhorror.com is email address. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all the Codys who wrote in this week. Joe, can we revisit my year-end list pretty quick? So we missed. The devil situation there. I feel like I feel like the movie before that too. You weren't here.
I was here for Kong. And I missed the week after the Devil's Candy.
Okay, did I put Kong on my list?
You did not.
Did we decide we weren't going to count it for your end list, John? Is that way?
No, I think you can put Kong.
I think we just didn't discuss.
All right, what's my top 5 right now, Joe?
Right now, you've got Get Out at #1, Split at 2, Life at 3, 4 is open. Belko Experiment is #5.
Life. What the fuck is Life? I can't even remember that movie.
He can't even remember what Life is.
Oh my god,
man! It's
Holy
funny.
Shit. Wait, hold on. Remind me what Life is.
Devil's Candy.
I'm dead serious. What is Life?
It's the fucking one in the space station.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, never mind. That was pretty good. Leave that there. Oh God, this is. Really
I don't know,
difficult.
man. That's like not a strong sign.
All right, what do I have at #5 right now?
Belko Experiment.
And is 4
you
open?
have nothing at #4.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, put Kong at 4. Put Devil's Candy in at 10 for now, because like I don't know if it's gonna stick around.
Really, I have not watched it yet, but
no, it's good.
Did from our email exchange about like is it really metal? That's a decent soundtrack on there.
It's good, but it's got a weird. It also has a really weird pacing thing. So 2 in a row, I guess.
Yeah, Joe, you gotta watch.
No, you definitely.
Yeah, it's not that long.
There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. You definitely need to check it out.
No, what about the worst of? Right now you have Bye Bye Man at #1, Nothing at #2, and Rings at #3.
No updates. That still stands.
Well, what about
Phoenix Forgotten? Doesn't make the list.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make my worst list.
Really?
No, for movies to make my worst list, I have to be really angry, and as you can tell, I'm not angry.
I don't know. I would agree with Bye Bye Man. I would put Phoenix Forgotten as worse than Rings.
You know what? I'm gonna make a controversial statement. I kind of look back on Bye Bye Man as so ridiculous that I would put this above it for being boring.
Well, let me look at the runtime for Bye Bye Man before I make that call.
Bye Bye Man, that kid, the kid.
No,
from
listen, I'm not even.
Big Love.
I'm not even sweating it. There is no way that anything will be worse than the Bye Bye Man this year. It's impossible.
I don't know. No, Bye Bye Man was 136 minutes. I'll agree with you. It's definitely worse.
Yeah, I remember it was like 2
my
hours.
worst of list might be based solely on runtime.
Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, Joe, thank you. So you got my picks there?
I got it.
All right. Thank you. By the way, I'm really appreciative of this service you're affording me. This
I look forward to it more than actually
you know what?
discussing them.
It's actually very interesting to me, and I talked about this little schnorrs on the Eric show that's coming up.
Oh, boy.
Can't wait. No, it's like it makes me – there's a huge difference about rating a movie right after you see it than me going back at the end of the year, because at the end of the year – all I'm going off of basically are like base emotions that I feel when I hear the name of the movie. Because
Yeah, but so I would actually argue that like right now you literally couldn't even remember what the movie Life
no,
was.
but at the end of
Who's to
the
tell you?
listen, but at the end of the year, but that's why I'm shifting picks around, because the end of the year I can go back and like just be like as time goes on, I'm less interested in the Belko experiment. I'm noticing, even though I did like enjoy that a lot. So I don't know.
But I guess that, like, to John's point, like, I kind of agree that like the lasting impact is probably more relevant to like a top 10 list than just like, oh, this week I really love this movie.
I'm mixing it up, Joe. So
But it's the experiment. I get it. I'm on board.
Yeah, the only other risk I would say that we have here is that you're like every week polluting the rest of us with your ridiculous.
I really doubt that, because I don't think you guys give any shits what's on my top 10 list.
At no point could I ever let Eric's top 10 list influence mine.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
fair.
not worried
All
about
right.
it.
We have too much integrity.
And I have put movies on mine that I have not actually seen. So.
Yeah, Joe's certainly has no integrity. Joe,
pretty sure this is good.
Joe,
Pretty
we're also
sure.
on Twitter at BG Horror.
Yes, sir. Do you want to do BGH Classics first?
Whatever. Yeah, we usually do that first.
All right. I think we have actually a lot. I wasn't on the last episode, so I'm gonna go from newest.
Pick some of the good ones. Just pick some of the good ones.
Oh, all right. First up from at Frankie V1313. Bigfoot girls, and then they have the scene when somebody eats Bigfoot's ass. That's Casey from episode 315. Exists.
I like that movie, man. Exist was fun.
I did not see it. I still haven't seen
dude,
it.
it's like, if you're talking about found footage, it's pretty good.
Oh, I mean,
man.
I'll watch it. It's got to be better than this thing we just watched.
Oh yeah, way better.
Next up from Drop Your Linen. This is a good one because it's from episode 1. You just don't want to say moldy teabag because it sounds dirty, and that was Eric from episode 1.
I'm sure I am sure. While I couldn't even tell you what episode 1 is about, I'm sure that I was talking about the time I saw Mark's apartment in college, and he had a tea bag that had been sitting on his desk for like months and was moldy.
Oof. Next up from our friend, That Baseball Joe. Daddy, can the prisoner play? And that is me, or my daughter, talking about Mark on episode 365, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
Yeah, that was the best.
I still don't understand why my daughter referred to him as the prisoner. Next up from at Mr. Finn 607. This is Mark. How do you flip a car with a baby in it and not kill the baby? And then Eric replies, their head is soft, so they just bounce around.
Wow.
I'm not sure what episode, but I'm sure it's a good one.
I don't know what episode that was.
Jesse Wilson 002, episode 64 from the Google report. How come when I get up from sitting down, there's a wet mark on the chair?
And that's why we had to cancel the Google report, people.
Yeah.
You know what? It was a good ride while it lasted.
Yeah. We had fun.
At J Hard O. Did he get nominated for that? I mean, he had to. It was the Holocaust, and that shit gets nominated. Episode 95, The Gray.
It's true. He probably did.
No idea what that means.
Wolf punching.
Well, The Gray is Liam Neeson in
Liam.
it, so I assume we're talking about what's it called there?
The Schindler's List.
Yeah.
He did get nominated, right?
Yeah, of course. He did.
Next up from at Mr. Finn 607. This was Casey. What do you give trick-or-treaters in your building, John? Gold doubloons? And then I replied, stern looks. Episode 352.
Stern looks.
Mm-hmm.
It's more on the stern look side than the doubloons.
Now we might be getting to ones that we've done before, so just cut me off at this point. At Jesse Wilson 002. Everyone loves a good night at the Finger Bowl, aka the drive-in.
No, we did do that one.
That just happened. I thought. Oh no, that was a callback.
Well, that was episode 3.
For some reason, I thought Casey had just said that.
No. We talked
Episode
about it on the
3.
last show.
Wow.
That's why. That's.
All right. Shall we jump over to Ask BGH then?
Let us please do that, Joe.
All right. First up from at Gardner 7001. Anyone excited about Mike Flanagan's Netflix series adapt of Haunting on Hill House? Isn't it House on Haunted Hill? Glad Netflix focuses some money on the original. Haunting of Hill House? Is that a thing?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
right. It's
Well, are you
coming.
excited? Anyone?
We had a little discussion about it on the Slack, and I think there's some excitement. I do not understand how it's going to be a whole series, but it's a good movie. The original, that is.
Yeah. Next up is from Gardner also. Moorhead/Benson's Endless looks awesome, and they haven't disappointed. What are some youngish horror directors you look forward to? Now, boy, here we go.
I don't really know.
Here's-
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care much for teenagers.
Can I say Ty West? Is that
No, he's not young anymore.
No.
Wait, what qualifies as young?
He's old news, man. Dude, we've been talking about Ty West for like 10 years.
Yeah, but he's like 35 years old.
Yeah, it's not young.
No.
Do you feel young? I'm not young. I'm 34.
In Hollywood director land, 35 is pretty young.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I mean, the only one I was gonna say was Ben Wheatley, but he's like not been doing a lot of horror recently. He has been cranking out movies though, which I love. When you find a good director or someone that you're interested in, and like then they make a movie every like 4 years, it's like, what's the fucking point here, guy? Let's
Set
make
them
some
free.
movies.
If they come back to you, it was meant to be.
So.
Next up from @Danny JPEG. What tattoos do you guys have?
Oh boy, Danny, come on, man. We've done the tattoo rundown a couple times.
John, you want to mention your tramp stamp?
I think I'm the only member of the show without a tattoo. No,
Does Casey have one? I don't think Casey does.
I don't know. He's not here to defend himself. Let's say
I don't think he does.
doesn't.
Casey seems the kind of dude who'd have like an anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, you have one, right?
I have
Two?
a couple tattoos, yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
it was the late 90s, so they're like tribal-y kind of things.
All right. I've got a Haunted Mansion one. I've got a flower for the daughter. I've got a pinup girl for the wife, and then a Jason mask.
Nice.
Strong.
And I'm trying to figure
what
out.
is Lemmy getting?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out for the dog. So, see, my problem is I don't want to get something that just says Lemmy because then I'm going to have to explain, well, it's not like a Motorhead thing. It's actually for my dog and blah, blah, blah. So, we'll see. At Skizbot. Why haven't I seen any marketing for Phoenix Forgotten anywhere? I assume this was a VOD release. Had no idea it was in the theaters.
Yeah, no, I hadn't either. But I mean, I don't really watch a lot of like straight up TV that much anymore. So
It got I mean, there were trailers. Like it was in the front of a lot of movies we saw. We didn't really mention it, but this did quite poorly.
Yeah.
It didn't get a full like wide release, and obviously, as based on the tweet, it didn't get a ton of support, but it did about 2 million. It actually didn't hit its budget, and its budget was 2.8 million. So it likely will be profitable.
yeah,
but,
I can imagine,
that's not the worst, I guess.
no, I mean it's not terrible, but when you look at something like one of the good found footage movies that they shoot for 2 million, and then they do 10, and you're like, oh wow, great. So yeah.
Next up from Skizbot also, hitting up Motor City Nightmares this weekend. What's your favorite part of conventions? Panels, screenings, signings, merch, etc.?
I'll tell you exactly what my favorite part is, Joe.
Yes,
That
sir.
is when I go by myself and I just quietly wander the aisles and just look at all the stuff.
For the merch.
I like flipping through old posters. I like looking at toys. I like looking at weird shit that I have no reason to own whatsoever, but I really want. I like looking at masks, and I just want to I want to be in my own little world, Joe.
Oh man, Eric,
Could
I
have said
thought of-
merch, and then we could have
No,
cut to
I
It's
thought
not
of you this weekend, actually, Eric, because I went to not far from our place is a flea market every Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
And
nice.
this past Saturday was record store day, and
Ooh.
since I'm a douchebag, I bought a record player, and I wanted to go. They had some stuff there. They had this one area which I don't even know who was running this, but it was like probably like half of the aisle, and it was just like old like video game stuff, like
Oh,
Atari crap, like
great.
old like Super NES stuff, like.
I'd be curious to
just-
see what the prices were because it's really rare nowadays to find somebody that stuff that doesn't know what it's worth, and so your days of
Yeah.
like just picking stuff up on the cheap are kind of over. But
Well, and I was also like, I got there like at 8 a.m. right when it opened, so I don't think the person was actually there because I was thinking the same thing. Like, what are they actually getting for like a ColecoVision game?
Everybody kind of knows now. The only chance you have is like going to a thrift store, and even some of them,
Yeah.
depending on where they are, the ones in the bigger cities have kind of caught on a little more. But like, that's your best hope, and it's tough.
Yeah, I've got to hit up some of that. I want to hit because since we're in the burbs, I feel like I might be able to score some stuff, but I have not gone to any yet.
These days, I look more for like hard to find VHS stuff, but
Yeah.
even that's pretty rare. I'm trying to keep.
There was a
stuff.
lot of that too, and there was some like I specifically thought like these people don't know what they actually have flown around here. Like you might actually be a good deal. But yeah. Next up from our very own CC Riots, and this was based on the fact that I posted the Instagram today saying that most of the show would probably just be Eric's conspiracy theories, which we really didn't hear much about.
No,
Pretty
I
disappointed,
I was wigging out on Friday because of the big power outage in San Francisco, and then there was like the power went out in the New York City subway in the same day, and I was like, well, this is it, we're all gonna die now. I said I like messaged John, was asking about it. He's like, dude, I'm in Chicago or something, wherever the hell he was. I was like, all right, well, you're the only person I really know in New York City who will talk to me, so you're my correspondent.
But Cece just said that Hotlanta better be included in that conspiracy theory rant.
Yeah, she said there's been a bunch of other shit going on with like roads and stuff in Atlanta, and I was unfamiliar.
Roads. Next up from Stouto114, over under 15 minutes spent writing the script for this movie.
Yeah, the last part definitely was just like aliens abduct. Period.
I was gonna say the sad part is it was definitely over, but. All
right, we got two more here. Next up from @Nerds of Gore. What horror movie would make the best reality show based off its characters?
Horror movie make the best reality show.
I mean, I think Cabin in the Woods actually could be pretty interesting. Like just coming up with different like sort of ideas around those little boxes. Like, there could be something there.
Yeah, literally just what that movie was, but you make it a show.
Yeah, that could
and
be
then
fun.
Each week there's a new people go in, so they pick something different.
I defer to Joe's reality show knowledge on this. That question though about the script just reminded me of one thing we didn't talk about on Phoenix Forgotten.
John, we moved over.
It is 9:29, John.
The love triangle element
happens
so in the final. It's not. It was so fucking unnecessary and stupid and poorly done. It just in any event. All right, I'm sorry. Continue.
All right, last one @Red Jelly Donut, and this is directed specifically at Eric from 125, which I assume was the date.
Go on.
I've never even seen Unbreakable, and he says, "Say what? Have you remedied this yet? If not, say what? If yes, your thoughts?"
No, and actually, after that discussion came up, I rented it from the library, and we kept it for like a month, and then returned it. I never watched it. So.
Have you seen Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Because I feel like that's.
I love that show. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
She's alive. Damn it.
That show is great, and I actually really like Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
They're alive. Damn it. It's a miracle.
So.
And that's it for the tweets.
Thank God. Info at bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter at BGHorror. We're also on the Snapchats, Joe.
Oh yeah, we fucking are, brah.
You still doing that? Is it all just dog pictures now?
It's a lot of dog pictures, a lot of like walking him in the morning videos, a lot of he does this adorable thing where he sits on my lap in the morning before I wake up anybody else.
It's so funny. What we really need here at Bloody Good Horror is an intern to like you know how we need a database, right? Like I need a searchable database where I can just be like, Joe talks shit about animals, and it brings me up like the episode number. And like, TV shows have that, like America's Funniest Home Videos or whatever. Like they have interns logging all those videos and making a database so they can make all those connections.
You're talking like television shows that have made millions of dollars over their runtime.
So this is what we really need, so we can really take BGH to the next level, because we could do some stuff at that point.
You would not believe like the Friends of the Real Housewives podcast that I do with Evan. The amount of hate mail I got when I mentioned the same thing, that like I just don't give a shit about dogs. Like I don't,
Yeah.
But I feel like I've remedied that now.
Well, your life has changed now, Joe. You have a heart. What's it like?
That's
How do you
right.
feel?
It's not really changed
A
that
little,
much.
little uncomfortable with it?
I don't want to say that I love my daughter less now because of this dog, but I might.
Good
The
times.
dog's never going to learn to talk back to you.
That's why we were literally like, my wife and I, just Mia was like bouncing off the walls today. I'm like, you know what, Lemmy, you piss on the carpet, but like at least you don't talk to me.
All right, guys.
And then he licked my face.
What's next week?
The Void,
Nice.
I believe.
Looking forward to it. That's going to do it. Phoenix Forgotten. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you then.
See you. Peace out.
Bye-bye.